The sky turned blood-red as the first alien ship descended. It was massive, blotting out the sun, its surface shimmering like liquid metal. The ground shook violently, and the air filled with the deafening roar of engines. People ran in every direction, screaming, their faces etched with terror. In the small town of Greenwood, chaos reigned. Buildings crumbled like paper under the aliens' energy beams. Cars were tossed aside like toys. The streets, once peaceful, were now littered with debris and the cries of the wounded. Amid the destruction, one figure stood still, watching the chaos with calm eyes. He was an older man, his face weathered but determined. He didn't run or scream. Instead, he seemed to be waiting for something. The aliens landed in the center of town, their towering forms casting long shadows. They were unlike anything anyone had ever seen, tall, with glowing eyes and armor that seemed to pulse with energy. They moved with precision, their every step shaking the ground. The man stepped forward, his voice steady but loud enough to carry over the noise. "You've come for us," he said, his eyes locked on the lead alien. "But you don't know what you're up against." The alien tilted its head, as if studying him. Then, without warning, it raised its weapon. A blinding light shot out, but the man didn't flinch. Instead, he smiled. And then, the aliens stopped. For a moment, there was silence. The aliens looked at each other, their glowing eyes flickering with something that almost looked like fear. Then, as quickly as they had come, they retreated, their ships vanishing into the red sky. The man watched them go, his smile fading. He knew this wasn't over. The aliens would be back, and next time, they wouldn't stop. The town of Greenwood was in ruins. Smoke rose from the shattered buildings, and the air was thick with the smell of burning. The survivors emerged from their hiding places, their faces pale and eyes wide with shock. They gathered in the town square, where the man who had faced the aliens stood silently, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "Who are you?" someone asked, their voice trembling. The man turned to face the crowd. His eyes were calm, but there was a fire in them that gave the survivors a strange sense of hope. "I'm just someone who's seen this before," he said. "And I know how to fight back." The survivors exchanged uneasy glances. They were just ordinary people, farmers, shopkeepers, teachers. None of them had ever imagined facing something like this. But the man's confidence was infectious. "What do we do?" another person asked. The man looked around at the group. "First, we survive. Then, we fight. But we can't do it alone. We need to work together." Over the next few days, the survivors began to organize. They gathered whatever supplies they could find, food, water, tools, and weapons. The man, who they started calling the leader, taught them how to defend themselves. He showed them how to set traps, how to use the terrain to their advantage, and how to stay hidden. But it wasn't just about physical preparation. The leader also gave them something they desperately needed: hope. He told them stories of other battles, other times when humanity had faced impossible odds and won. He reminded them of their strength, their resilience, and their ability to adapt. "The aliens think we're weak," he said one evening as they sat around a makeshift campfire. "But they don't understand us. They don't know what we're capable of." As the days passed, the group grew stronger. They started to believe in themselves, in their ability to fight back. But the fear was always there, lurking in the back of their minds. The aliens had retreated, but they hadn't left. Everyone knew they would return. One night, as the group was preparing to sleep, a loud noise shattered the silence. It was a sound unlike anything they had ever heard, a deep, guttural roar that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. The survivors froze, their hearts pounding. The leader stood up, his eyes scanning the darkness. "They're here," he said quietly. And then, the aliens appeared. They came from all directions, their glowing eyes cutting through the night. The survivors scrambled to their feet, grabbing their weapons. The leader shouted orders, his voice steady despite the chaos. The battle was fierce. The aliens were fast and strong, but the humans fought with everything they had. They used the traps they had set, the terrain they had studied, and the courage they had found within themselves. For a moment, it seemed like they might win. But then, one of the aliens broke through the defenses. It grabbed one of the survivors, a young man who had been fighting bravely, and dragged him away. The group watched in horror as the alien vanished into the night, taking their friend with it. The leader's face was grim. "We need to get him back," he said. "But we can't do it tonight. We need a plan." The survivors nodded, their faces pale but determined. They knew the fight was far from over. And they knew they couldn't afford to lose. The captured survivor was a young man named Tom. He had been one of the bravest in the group, always volunteering for the most dangerous tasks. Now, he was gone, taken by the aliens. The survivors were devastated, but the leader's calm demeanor kept them focused. "We'll get him back," the leader said, his voice firm. "But first, we need to understand what they want with him." The group gathered around the campfire, their faces illuminated by the flickering flames. The leader began to explain. "The aliens aren't just here to destroy us. They're searching for something. Something they fear." The survivors exchanged puzzled glances. "What could they possibly fear from us?" someone asked. The leader leaned forward, his eyes intense. "They fear our resilience. Our ability to adapt and overcome. They've seen it before, in other worlds they've tried to conquer. And now, they're afraid we'll do the same." The group fell silent, processing his words. It was hard to believe that the aliens, with their advanced technology and terrifying power, could be afraid of humans. But the leader's certainty gave them hope. "Tom might be the key," the leader continued. "If we can find out what they're doing to him, we might learn how to fight back." The next morning, the group set out to rescue Tom. They moved cautiously, staying hidden in the shadows. The aliens were everywhere, patrolling the area with their glowing eyes and silent movements. As they approached the aliens' base, a massive, metallic structure that loomed over the landscape, the leader signaled for them to stop. "We need to be careful," he whispered. "One wrong move, and we're done for." The group split into smaller teams, each with a specific task. Some were to create distractions, while others would sneak into the base to find Tom. The leader led the rescue team, his movements precise and deliberate. Inside the base, the air was cold and sterile. The walls were made of a strange, shimmering material that seemed to pulse with energy. The group moved silently, their hearts pounding with every step. Finally, they found Tom. He was in a large, circular room, strapped to a table. Strange machines surrounded him, their lights blinking rhythmically. The aliens were gathered around him, their glowing eyes focused intently on the machines. The leader motioned for the group to stay back. He moved closer, his eyes scanning the room for a way to free Tom. As he approached, he noticed something strange: the machines weren't hurting Tom. They were scanning him, studying him. The leader's mind raced. Why were the aliens so interested in Tom? What were they looking for? Suddenly, one of the aliens turned and spotted him. It let out a loud, guttural roar, and the others quickly followed suit. The leader didn't hesitate. He rushed forward, grabbing a tool from his belt and using it to disable the machines. The group sprang into action, attacking the aliens with everything they had. The room was filled with the sounds of battle, shouts, roars, and the clanging of metal. In the chaos, the leader managed to free Tom. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice urgent. Tom nodded, his eyes wide with fear. They were trying to understand me," he stammered. "They kept saying something about humanity's strength. The leader's eyes narrowed. We need to get out of here. Now. The group fought their way out of the base, the aliens hot on their heels. As they ran, the leader couldn't shake the feeling that they had stumbled onto something important. The aliens weren't just invaders, they were afraid. And that fear could be their greatest weakness. The group barely made it out of the alien base alive. They ran until their lungs burned and their legs gave out, collapsing in a hidden spot far from the aliens' reach. Tom was shaken but unharmed, and the survivors gathered around him, their faces a mix of relief and exhaustion. The leader sat down, his breathing heavy but steady. We need to talk about what happened back there, he said, his voice low. Tom nodded, still catching his breath. They were studying me. Like they were trying to figure out how we think, how we fight. They kept saying something about how humans are unpredictable. The leader's eyes narrowed. Unpredictable, he repeated. That's their weakness. They can't anticipate what we'll do next. That's why they're afraid. The group fell silent, processing his words. For the first time, they felt a glimmer of hope. The aliens weren't invincible. They had a weakness, and it was something the humans could use to their advantage. We need to strike back, the leader said, his voice firm. Not just to survive, but to show them that we're not afraid. That we won't back down. The survivors nodded, their determination growing. They spent the next few days planning their attack. Using what they had learned from the alien base, they came up with a strategy to exploit the aliens' fear of unpredictability. The plan was simple but daring. They would create a series of distractions to draw the aliens away from their base, then launch a surprise attack from multiple directions. The goal wasn't just to win a battle, it was to send a message. The night of the attack, the air was thick with tension. The group moved silently through the darkness, their hearts pounding with anticipation. The leader led the way, his eyes focused and his movements precise. When they reached the aliens' base, the leader gave the signal. The distractions began, explosions, loud noises, and flashes of light that lit up the night sky. The aliens reacted immediately, rushing toward the source of the chaos. That's when the humans struck. They came from all sides, attacking the aliens with everything they had. The aliens were caught off guard, their movements slow and confused. The humans fought with a ferocity that surprised even themselves, their fear replaced by a burning determination. The battle was intense, but the humans had the upper hand. They used the terrain to their advantage, setting traps and ambushes that the aliens couldn't anticipate. The aliens fought back, but their fear of the humans' unpredictability made them hesitant, giving the humans the edge they needed. Finally, after what felt like hours, the aliens retreated. The humans stood their ground, their chests heaving and their faces streaked with sweat and dirt. They had done it. They had won their first victory. The leader looked around at the group, a rare smile on his face. You did it, he said, his voice filled with pride. You showed them what we're made of. The survivors cheered, their spirits lifted by their success. But the leader's smile faded as he looked toward the horizon. This isn't over, he said quietly. They'll be back. And next time, they'll be ready. The group nodded, their determination unwavering. They knew the fight was far from over, but for the first time, they believed they could win. The victory at the alien base had given the survivors a newfound confidence, but it came at a cost. The aliens were no longer underestimating them. Over the next few days, strange things began to happen. The skies grew darker, and the air felt heavier, as if the planet itself was preparing for something big. One evening, as the group gathered around the campfire, a loud rumble echoed through the air. The ground shook violently, and the survivors scrambled to their feet, their eyes wide with fear. What's happening? Someone shouted. The leader stood up, his face grim. They're coming back, he said. And this time, they're not holding back. The group watched in horror as a massive alien ship descended from the sky. It was unlike anything they had ever seen, enormous, with a dark, metallic surface that seemed to absorb the light. The ship landed just outside the town, and the aliens emerged, their numbers far greater than before. The survivors prepared for battle, but it was clear that this fight would be different. The aliens were more organized, their movements precise and calculated. They had learned from their previous defeat, and they were determined not to make the same mistakes. The battle was fierce. The humans fought bravely, but they were outnumbered and outmatched. The aliens' new technology was overwhelming, and their tactics were relentless. The survivors began to lose hope, their spirits crushed by the sheer power of their enemy. As the battle raged on, the leader noticed something strange. The aliens seemed to be focusing their attacks on a specific area, a small hill at the edge of town. He realized that they were trying to protect something important. "We need to get to that hill," the leader shouted over the noise of the battle. "There's something there they don't want us to see." The group fought their way toward the hill, their determination renewed. But the aliens were relentless, and the closer they got, the harder the aliens fought to stop them. Finally, after what felt like hours, the humans reached the hill. At the top, they found a strange, glowing object, a device of some kind, pulsing with energy. The aliens had been protecting it, but why? The leader examined the device, his mind racing. "This is what they're afraid of," he said. "This is what they've been trying to keep from us." Before he could say more, a loud roar echoed through the air. The aliens were closing in, their eyes glowing with fury. The group knew they had to act fast. "We need to destroy it," the leader said. "If we can't have it, neither can they." The group worked together to disable the device, their hands trembling with fear and exhaustion. As the aliens reached the top of the hill, the leader made the final adjustment, and the device exploded in a blinding flash of light. The aliens were thrown back, their screams echoing through the air. The humans shielded their eyes, the force of the explosion knocking them to the ground. When the light faded, the aliens were gone. The hill was silent, the air thick with the smell of smoke and burnt metal. The humans looked around, their hearts pounding with relief and disbelief. But the leader knew better. "This isn't over," he said, his voice quiet but firm. "They'll be back. And next time, we need to be ready." The group nodded, their determination stronger than ever. They had faced the aliens and survived, but the war was far from over. The explosion on the hill had bought the survivors some time, but the leader knew it was only a temporary reprieve. The aliens would return, and when they did, they would be more determined than ever. The group needed a plan, a way to fight back that didn't rely on luck or brute force. As the survivors worked to rebuild their defenses, the leader gathered a small team to search for answers. He had a theory about the glowing device they had destroyed. If the aliens were so desperate to protect it, there had to be more like it, something that could give the humans an edge in the war. "We need to find out what that device was," the leader said, his voice low but urgent. "If we can understand it, we might be able to use it against them." The team set out early the next morning, moving cautiously through the ruins of the town. The landscape was eerily quiet, the only sound the crunch of debris under their feet. The aliens were nowhere to be seen, but the survivors knew better than to let their guard down. After hours of searching, they found what they were looking for, a hidden bunker buried deep beneath the ruins. The entrance was sealed, but the leader managed to pry it open with a crowbar. Inside, they found a treasure trove of information, maps, blueprints, and strange artifacts that seemed to hum with energy. "This is it," the leader said, his eyes wide with excitement. "This is what we've been looking for." The team spent hours studying the materials, piecing together the story of the device. It was a weapon, but not like anything they had ever seen. It didn't fire bullets or explosives, it used energy, tapping into a power source that the aliens had been trying to control. "If we can build one of these," the leader said, holding up a blueprint, we might be able to turn the tide. But there was a catch. The weapon required a rare mineral to function, a mineral that could only be found in one place, the heart of the alien base. The group fell silent, the weight of the task sinking in. Going back to the alien base was suicide, but they didn't have a choice. If they wanted to win the war, they needed that mineral. We'll go tonight, the leader said, his voice firm. We'll get in, get what we need, and get out. No mistakes. The team spent the rest of the day preparing. They gathered supplies, studied the blueprints, and rehearsed their plan. As the sun set, they set out for the alien base, their hearts pounding with fear and determination. The base was even more heavily guarded than before, but the team moved with precision, using the shadows to their advantage. They avoided the patrols, slipping past the aliens with barely a sound. Finally, they reached the heart of the base, a massive chamber filled with glowing crystals. The mineral they needed was there, pulsing with energy. This is it, the leader whispered. Grab as much as you can. The team worked quickly, filling their bags with the crystals. But just as they were about to leave, the alarms went off. The aliens had discovered them. The team ran, their hearts pounding as the aliens closed in. They fought their way through the base, their movements desperate but determined. Finally, they reached the exit, the aliens hot on their heels. As they emerged into the night, the leader turned and threw a small device into the base. It exploded in a flash of light, sealing the entrance and buying them some time. The team ran until they were sure they were safe, collapsing in a hidden spot far from the base. They were exhausted, but they had done it. They had the mineral. Now we build the weapon, the leader said, his voice filled with determination. And then, we fight back. With the rare mineral in their possession, the survivors worked tirelessly to build the weapon. The leader oversaw the construction, his hands steady as he pieced together the intricate components. The weapon was unlike anything they had ever seen, a sleek, glowing device that pulsed with energy. It was their only hope, and they knew it had to work. As the final touches were made, the group gathered around, their faces a mix of hope and fear. The leader held the weapon in his hands, his eyes filled with determination. This is it, he said. This is our chance to end this. But before they could celebrate, the ground began to shake. The air filled with the familiar roar of alien ships, and the survivors knew the final battle was about to begin. The aliens had returned, their numbers greater than ever. They descended on the town like a swarm, their glowing eyes cutting through the darkness. The humans took their positions, their hearts pounding with fear and adrenaline. The leader stood at the front, the weapon in his hands. Remember, he shouted over the noise. We're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for everyone who couldn't be here today. We're fighting for our future. The battle was fierce. The aliens attacked with everything they had, their weapons lighting up the night sky. The humans fought back with equal ferocity, their determination unshakable. The leader used the weapon to devastating effect, its energy blasts cutting through the aliens' defenses. But the aliens were relentless. They kept coming, their numbers seemingly endless. The humans began to tire, their movements slowing as the battle dragged on. Just when it seemed like all hope was lost, something incredible happened. The weapon began to glow brighter, its energy building to a crescendo. The leader realized what was happening. The weapon was drawing power from the aliens themselves, using their own energy against them. Hold the line, the leader shouted, his voice filled with newfound hope. We've got this. The humans rallied, their spirits lifted by the weapon's power. They fought with everything they had, pushing the aliens back with each passing moment. The leader aimed the weapon at the largest alien ship, its energy beam cutting through the hull like a knife. The ship exploded in a blinding flash of light, the force of the blast knocking the humans to the ground. When the light faded, the aliens were gone. The battlefield was silent, the air thick with the smell of smoke and burnt metal. The humans looked around, their hearts pounding with relief and disbelief. They had done it. They had won. But the leader knew better. "This isn't over," he said, his voice quiet but firm. "We've won the battle, but the war is far from over." The group nodded, their determination stronger than ever. They had faced the aliens and survived, but they knew the fight wasn't finished. The survivors stood amidst the ruins of their town, their bodies bruised and their spirits weary, but their resolve unbroken. The alien ship's explosion had scattered their enemies, but the leader's words echoed in their minds, "The war is far from over." As the dust settled, the group began to assess the damage. The town was in shambles, but the weapon they had built still glowed faintly in the leader's hands. It was their greatest achievement, but also a reminder of the cost of their victory. "We need to prepare," the leader said, his voice steady but urgent. "The aliens won't give up easily. They'll regroup, and they'll come back stronger. We need to be ready." The survivors worked tirelessly over the next few days, fortifying their defenses and repairing what they could. The weapon became the centerpiece of their strategy, its power a symbol of their defiance. But the leader knew they couldn't rely on it alone. They needed a plan, a way to strike back before the aliens could recover. One evening, as the group gathered around the campfire, the leader unveiled his plan. "We need to take the fight to them," he said. "We need to find their main base and destroy it. If we can cut off the head, the body will fall." The group listened intently, their faces illuminated by the flickering flames. It was a risky plan, but they knew they had no choice. The aliens would never stop coming unless they were stopped for good. The next morning, the group set out for the aliens' main base. It was a long and dangerous journey, but they moved with purpose, their determination unwavering. The weapon was with them, its glow a constant reminder of their mission. When they reached the base, the sight took their breath away. It was massive, a sprawling complex of dark, metallic structures that seemed to stretch endlessly into the horizon. The air was thick with the hum of alien machinery, and the ground vibrated with the energy of their operations. The leader signaled for the group to stop. "This is it," he whispered. "We need to move quickly and quietly. Stick to the plan." The group split into smaller teams, each with a specific task. Some were to create distractions, while others would infiltrate the base and plant explosives. The leader led the team carrying the weapon, their mission to disable the aliens' power source. The infiltration was tense. The aliens were everywhere, their glowing eyes scanning the area for intruders. The humans moved like shadows, their movements precise and deliberate. Every step was a risk, but they knew they couldn't afford to fail. Finally, the leader's team reached the heart of the base, a massive chamber filled with glowing crystals and alien machinery. It was the source of the aliens' power, and it pulsed with energy. "This is it," the leader said, his voice barely above a whisper. "We need to destroy it." The team worked quickly, setting charges around the chamber. But just as they were about to leave, the aliens discovered them. The room filled with the sound of guttural roars as the aliens attacked. The humans fought back, their movements desperate but determined. The leader used the weapon to hold them off, its energy blasts cutting through the aliens with devastating effect. As the battle raged, the charges began to detonate. The chamber shook violently, the walls cracking under the force of the explosions. The leader knew they had to get out, fast. "Go," he shouted, his voice barely audible over the noise. "Get out of here." The team ran, the aliens hot on their heels. The base was collapsing around them, the air filled with the sound of crumbling metal and roaring flames. Finally, they emerged into the open air, the base collapsing behind them in a massive explosion. The force of the blast knocked them to the ground, the heat searing their skin. When the dust settled, the group looked back at the ruins of the base. It was gone, reduced to a smoldering crater. The aliens were defeated. But the leader knew better. "This isn't the end," he said, his voice quiet but firm. "We've won this battle, but the war isn't over. We need to stay vigilant." The group nodded, their determination stronger than ever. They had faced the aliens and won, but they knew the fight wasn't finished. The survivors returned to their town, their bodies battered but their spirits unbroken. The alien base was destroyed, and the immediate threat was gone, but the scars of the war remained. The town was in ruins, and the survivors knew they had a long road ahead to rebuild. As they worked to restore their home, the leader gathered the group one evening. The campfire crackled, casting a warm glow on their tired faces. The weapon they had built sat nearby, its glow now dim, a symbol of their hard-fought victory. "We've come a long way," the leader said, his voice calm but filled with emotion. "We faced something unimaginable, and we didn't back down. We stood together, and because of that, we survived." The group nodded, their eyes reflecting the firelight. They had lost much, friends, family, and the life they once knew. But they had also gained something invaluable, a sense of unity and purpose. "The aliens underestimated us," the leader continued. "They thought we were weak, that we would crumble under their power. But they didn't understand what makes us strong. It's not just our ability to fight, it's our ability to hope, to adapt, and to stand together, even in the darkest times." He paused, looking around at the group. "This isn't just a victory over the aliens. It's a victory for all of us. It's proof that no matter how hard things get, we can overcome them if we stay united." The survivors listened in silence, their hearts heavy but also filled with pride. They had faced the impossible and come out stronger. As the days turned into weeks, the town began to heal. The survivors worked together, rebuilding their homes and their lives. The weapon was dismantled, its parts stored away as a reminder of what they had achieved. One evening, as the sun set over the horizon, the leader stood on a hill overlooking the town. The air was calm, and the sky was clear, a stark contrast to the chaos they had endured. One of the survivors approached him, a young man who had fought bravely in the final battle. "Do you think they'll come back?" he asked, his voice tinged with worry. The leader looked at him, his eyes steady. "Maybe," he said. "But if they do, we'll be ready. We've learned how to fight, but more importantly, we've learned how to stand together. That's something they can never take away from us." The young man nodded, his fear replaced by determination. "We'll be ready," he said. The leader smiled, a rare but genuine expression. "That's the spirit." As the stars began to appear in the night sky, the leader turned to the group. "This isn't the end," he said. "It's a new beginning. We've been given a second chance, and it's up to us to make the most of it. Let's build a future worth fighting for." The survivors cheered, their voices echoing into the night. They had faced the darkness and emerged victorious, and they knew that as long as they stood together, they could face anything. The lesson. The story of the survivors is a testament to the power of resilience, unity, and hope. It teaches us that no matter how dire the circumstances, we can overcome them if we stand together. The aliens represented the challenges we face in life: fear, doubt, and adversity. But just like the survivors, we have the strength to fight back, to adapt, and to rise above. The final lesson is simple but profound: even in the darkest times, hope and unity can light the way. When we stand together, there is no challenge too great, no enemy too powerful. Our greatest strength lies not in our weapons or our technology, but in our ability to care for one another and to never give up. And so, the survivors rebuilt their lives, not just as individuals, but as a community. They carried the lessons of their struggle with them, a reminder that no matter what the future held, they would face it together.